And so I met Zelma Long actually for the second time. I met her one day in '94 when she was talking to Rick Small and Gary Figgins about starting a winery in Walla Walla. Instead, she and Phil started a winery in South Africa, Villa Fonte, which I'm sure you've had the wines, great wine, in Parle. And then when we worked together for Harvest, John Bookwalter, Zelma, and I, and that sort of trio or quad with Jerry, his dad was still working there running the vineyards. I got to know Zelma. And then when I left, they appreciated my work because I was able to work with John and translate Zelma's style recommendations into actable, executable clarity that John was not as clear about. He's like, well, you understand what she's saying, Caleb, right? I'm like, totally get it. We'll do exactly what she says. And he was like, done. And Zelma came back after Harvest. She was like, well, that went well. Um, and and I went into the meeting and I said, and they pretty complimented me for the effort that I brought. And I said, well, thanks. And I asked Zelma, I was like, so I'd really love to make a great Chardonnay, and I know you make a great one, and you're an amazing consultant. I don't know, I can't possibly afford you. But could we maybe just work on a little project about that big called Chardonnay? And she said yes. And I was like, I'm sorry, what did you just say? She said yes. How much will it cost? And so we started. She consulted to me that year. I thought would only be a year because I couldn't afford any more. It lasted a decade.
Wow.
Yeah. Extraordinary consultancy. Absolutely launched Beauty from an utter startup of 20 barrels to getting on Food and Wine Magazine Wine of the Year, to being in the Food and Wine Pocket Guide 3 times, to being in all of the top 100 lists at least once, if not twice. Wine Spirits Magazine, top 100 wineries twice. The ride was like a rocket ship. It was amazing. And because she showed us, knew what to focus on, and we did it.
Yeah,
we did what she said.
That's a great relationship.
It was an incredible relationship, And I remember a guy, he was writing an article about us. He was the reporter for wine at the Union Bulletin in Walla Walla, and he was writing stories about all the evolving wineries in Walla Walla. And he called me up, and Tom was like, Caleb, so I don't get it. Like, it was our 4th or 5th year and Beauty and in Walla Walla. And he's like, I don't get it. Like, why don't you have a consultant? Like, you made wine all around the world. Like, you don't need a consultant. All these other guys need a consultant. And I didn't have the answer at the moment. The next day, I thought about that question. I was like, what is eating at me? I'm like, oh, this is what I needed to say to him. I was like, Tom, you're in print. Okay. What if Walter Cronkite took a personal interest in your work? Would you spend time with him?
Right.
I had one of the greats. Yeah, you take that consultant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I'm sure she enjoyed it just as much as you did. I don't know how, I don't know much about her and her background, but 10 years is a great, it's a long-term relationship. That's a good relationship.
It really was. And in fact, I said, wow, we had a great first year. This is amazing. I thank you so much. We've learned so much. And I guess it's over. And she looked at us and she was like, no, I'd love to continue. I was like, really? So yeah, it just kept rolling and rolling. And once after 5 years, we're like, wow, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I think this is really expensive. And she's like, no, I really want to keep this going. I'm like, wow. But we went from really focusing on making a great Chardonnay, which by all rights we did, and to making great white wine, to evolving that process into the vineyards, how to approach the vineyard, not owning it with growers, to take your style, put it into the vineyard, change that style in the foliage, in the fruit, in the development plan of the vineyard, bring it back in as fruit and make the wine, and then go and loop that again, improve it in the cycle, because it's a 2-part game. And that's a 3-part game, sales, right? 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And then, and hear from sales. Oh, sales loves this. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the vineyard, and then we're going to put that in the cellar, and then we're going to get it back to this market. Okay, let's do that loop again. Boop, 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 boop. To being successful at that, while simultaneously she turned around and she said, well, let's look at everything. And I was like, do you mean mid wines too? And she's like, everything. I'm like, oh, wow. And then to she said, well, I'd like to look at your finances. And I said, would you please? And I opened up all the books and all the money and all the ways we did things. And she showed us how to not so much how to run the money, because to both of our amazement, we were doing really well, but how to not do that crazy thing over there that you shouldn't be doing. And don't do that thing that looks like it's making a lot of money across the street, because it's not. And here's where people waste a lot of money regularly in the wine business. So don't do that too. What to invest in first, and then what do you invest in next, and what do you put on top of that, and wait, don't do that first, do it fourth, and then on fifth thing you're going to do that, right? And she put things in order.
Nice.
It's extraordinary.
It's a superpower.
It's a superpower and enormous depth. You know, she was building Villa Fonte in South Africa with Phil, told us everything about building that. They had to go back. First, they were going to plant the vineyard. They couldn't get any clean plant material, so they had to start a nursery, clean up from shoot tip growth all of the plant material in South Africa so that they had virus-free stock. Then plant that virus-free stock in Villa Fonte, then make the wine, and then sell the wine. 5 to 7 years after starting their program, they had their first harvest.
That's crazy.
It's an amazing story. And